Broken. It's happened.
It's the headline that feels like it's been hovering over Washington for, what, 2 decades? Former President Bill Clinton, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, they've officially agreed to testify.
It is a massive moment.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's a little frustrating to see some outlets treating this like it's just another celebrity scandal.
Right. Or just more political theater.
Exactly. Because if you actually look at the scale of what is happening here, the source material we have, this is a stress test for the entire American justice system.
That is the mission for this deep dive.
Yeah.
We're not here to rehash tabloid rumors. We are looking at a trove of 3 million documents, international fallout that is, actively destabilizing the British royal family.
And a data breach from the Department of Justice that has turned everything completely upside down.
So we need to figure out, why is this all exploding right now?
We have to parse through the noise of these Epstein files. We need to understand who is involved, why this is happening in 2026, and maybe look at that darker intersection of intelligence, immunity, and money that, let all of this happen in the first place.
So let's get right into the breaking news then. Section 1, the Clintons. For the last few weeks, this looked like a total stalemate.
It did. It was a high-stakes standoff.
Yeah.
You had the House Oversight Committee, led by James Comer.
Just playing a game of chicken with 2 of the most powerful people in modern history.
Absolutely. Comer had subpoenaed them, and their legal team was throwing everything they had at the wall to stop it. They called the subpoenas legally invalid. They called it a bet.
Like a ploy to embarrass political rivals. The standard defense.
All the standard Washington defense tactics. But Comer didn't blink. He threatened a contempt of Congress vote.
And a contempt vote is not just a slap on the wrist. It carries genuine legal weight and, massive optical damage.
So yesterday, Monday, the Clintons team capitulated.
And we have a schedule now. Hillary Clinton testifies on February 26th, and Bill Clinton is up the very next day on the 27th.
You should mark those calendars. But here's the thing you need to understand about this testimony. It is basically a perjury trap.
How so?
The questions aren't going to be vague. They're going to be based on hard evidence from that Epstein files release from late 2025.
Right. Let's look at that evidence. For years, the narrative from the Clinton camp was, I barely knew the guy, or
I took a flight or 2 for charity.
Exactly. But the flight logs tell a much more specific story.
They do. The logs confirm Bill Clinton took at least 4 international flights on Epstein's plane between 2002 and 2003. But you know what? The flight logs are almost old news.
Right.
The real problem for the former president is the visual evidence, the stuff the DOJ released in December.
These are the photos from the estate. There's one photo showing him swimming in a pool there. There's another where he's lying in a hot tub, hand behind his head, looking quite comfortable.
It's the comfort level. That's what complicates the defense. And look, we have to be scrupulously fair here.
Of course.
Bill Clinton has repeatedly and vehemently denied any knowledge of Epstein's crimes. His team's official line is that he cut ties 2 decades ago, long before the full horror of this was known.
And that's their defense. It's almost certainly what he's going to say under oath on the 27th. But here's the friction point.
The photos.
The photos suggest a level of social intimacy that just flat out contradicts the casual acquaintance story. So if Congress asks, how close were you? And he minimizes it while the committee is holding a photo of him in the man's hot tub.
That's where the legal jeopardy kicks in. It's not about the original crime. It's about the truthfulness of the testimony about the relationship.
Precisely. And just to add to this whole legal circus, Ghislaine Maxwell is on the schedule too.
Right, February 9th. She's testifying virtually from prison, where she's serving her 20-year sentence.
But I don't think we should expect any fireworks there. Her lawyers have already said she's just going to plead the 5th.
Well, she has to. She's still trying to appeal her conviction, so legally she can't give Congress anything that would self-incriminate.
So the Clintons are the big headline here in the U.S. But if you shift your gaze across the Atlantic, the situation in the U.K. is, arguably worse.
Oh, it's not just a political scandal over there. It really does look like a full-blown constitutional crisis.
Crisis is the right word. We usually focus on Prince Andrew, and we'll get to him. But there was a name in these files that honestly shocked me even more than the royals. Peter Mandelson.
Lord Mandelson. I think American audiences might underestimate just how big a deal this guy is.
He was the former UK ambassador to the US, a huge figure in the Labour Party. They call him the Prince of Darkness for his political skills.
He's a titan of British politics. Or, well, he was, until he resigned from the Labour Party this week.
And the reason he resigned, this is what shifts the entire story from just a sex scandal to something that looks a lot more like, espionage.
This is the part of the files that really kept me up at night. the emails. They reveal that Mandelson wasn't just, partying with Epstein. He appears to have been leaking sensitive government information to him.
It's just incredibly damning. We found emails where Mandelson seemed to tip off Epstein about a 500 billion euro bailout before it was made public.
He was also discussing upcoming UK tax plans.
Let's just pause on that for a second. If you are a financier like Epstein, or if you're managing money for billionaires like Leslie Wexner,
Knowing about a 500 billion euro bailout before the market does, that is invaluable. That is market-moving data.
it's fuel for insider trading. But it just begs the question, why? Why would a high-ranking diplomat feed this info to a guy like Epstein?
In the emails, Mandelson calls Epstein my best pal. There's even a chain where Mandelson's partner asks Epstein for money, specifically £10,000 for an osteopathy course.
And Epstein just wires it.
Wires it right over.
Yeah.
It is so transactional. It feels less like a friendship and more like a handler relationship.
A diplomat treating a sex offender like a customized ATM.
And in exchange, the financier gets state secrets. It is, like you said, espionage light. And it really reinforces this theory that Epstein wasn't just running a trafficking ring, he was running an information brokerage.
He collected powerful people, compromised them, and then extracted value.
Which brings us to the most famous, compromised figure in the UK, Prince Andrew, or as he's now known, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor.
It's still so jarring to hear that name without the HRH. King Charles officially stripped him of the titles in 2025, but these new files, they justify that decision 10 times over.
The DOJ release included undated photos they're just deeply disturbing.
We have to be careful describing them, but they paint a terrible picture. They appear to show Andrew kneeling over a woman or maybe a girl lying on the floor. Her face is redacted, but he's touching her.
In one, he's on all fours leaning over her. It just destroys any remaining shred of dignity or denial he had left.
And the emails back it up. There was that specific exchange from 2010, and you have to remember, 2010 is after Epstein's first conviction. Everyone knew he was a registered sex offender by then.
That's the critical timeline. Epstein emails Andrew inviting him to meet a friend in London. Andrew replies he'd be delighted.
And then Epstein describes the girl as a 26-year-old Russian who is clever, beautiful, trustworthy.
Trustworthy. That word is so loaded in this context, isn't it?
Trustworthy with what? To keep a secret.
Precisely. You don't describe a casual date as trustworthy. You describe an accomplice that way. It completely contradicts Andrew's claim that he cut ties after the 2008 conviction.
And then in the subplot that would almost be funny if it wasn't so pathetic, you have Sarah Ferguson.
Fergie, the Duchess of York.
Yeah.
This part of the file is just sad. It reveals this desperate financial dependency.
We found emails where she is practically begging Epstein for £20,000 because her landlord is threatening to go to the press about her unpaid rent.
And she wrote, "Just marry me," in an email to him after he paid.
She did. "I am at your service. Just marry me." As a thank you for the cash. But look at how Epstein talks about her behind her back. He didn't see a friend in need.
He saw a PR asset. He wanted to use her.
Explicitly. There are strategy emails between Epstein and his crisis team where they literally discuss how to deploy Fergie to clear his name.
Epstein wrote, and I'm quoting here, "I think Fergie can now say, I am not a pedo."
That's just chilling. He's buying her silence or buying her endorsement while she's desperate for rent money. It is the very definition of predatory.
It perfectly illustrates the power dynamic. He targeted people who had status but needed cash. He became their solution. And once he was their solution, he owned them.
And all of this information, the Clintons, Mandelson, the Royals, it's all coming from this massive data dump. The Epstein files released on January 30th. This was pitched as a victory for transparency, right? The Transparency Act.
It was supposed to be a victory. Instead, it turned into a complete and utter disaster.
We are talking about 3 million pages, 2,000 videos, 180,000 images released by the Department of Justice.
And the execution was, incompetent doesn't even begin to cover it. It was catastrophic.
The DOJ failed to properly redact the personal information of the victims.
I remember seeing the headlines when this dropped last week. It made me physically ill. We're not just talking about names being left in.
No, we're talking about their email addresses, private banking details, and most horrifically nude photographs of the victims where their faces were clearly identifiable.
Just imagine being a survivor. You've waited decades for justice, you've lived with this trauma, and then the government, in an act of transparency, broadcasts your private shame to the entire world.
It re-traumatized them instantly. Survivors were effectively doxxed. One victim said she got death threats within hours of her banking details hitting the web.
It's unbelievable. Lawyers for the victims called it the single most egregious violation of victim privacy in U.S. history.
They did take the files down eventually, didn't they?
They did. The DOJ pulled the database and blamed, technical or human error.
But we all know how the internet works. Once something is up, it's scraped, it's copied, it's archived forever. The damage is permanent.
It's just a tragic irony that the quest for justice ended up inflicting more pain on the very people it was supposed to protect.
It does make you wonder if it was incompetence or something else. But let's take a step back. We're deep in the weeds of 2026 politics and leaks here.
Right.
But there is a question that always lingers for me. How? How did a math teacher from Brooklyn end up with presidents and princes in his pocket?
That origin story is the key to understanding the bounty hunter aspect of all this.
Mm-hmm.
Jeffrey Epstein started as a teacher at the Dalton School in Manhattan.
Back in the mid-'70s, and he didn't even have a college degree, right? He lied to get the job.
He lied to get the job.
Yeah.
But he was charming. He could talk his way into any room. He was a chameleon. He got fired from Dalton, but a parent there introduced him to Ace Greenberg at Bear Stearns.
He lied his way in there, too, rose fast, and got fired again for resume fraud and expense account violations.
So he's a fraudster, basically, but then he pivots. In the 1980s, he reinvents himself.
Yeah.
People who knew him then called him a bounty hunter.
Not the dog the bounty hunter type kicking down doors, a financial bounty hunter.
Exactly. He specialized in tracking down stolen or hidden assets for the ultra-wealthy. And that's a very specific skill set. It means you know how to navigate offshore accounts, shell companies, secret jurisdictions.
And that's the skill that impressed Leslie Wexner, the founder of Victoria's Secret.
Wexner became his golden goose. Epstein managed his billions, had full power of attorney, and that gave him the capital to buy the planes, the islands, and the access.
And speaking of access, we have to address the elephant in the room. We've talked about Clinton, but Donald Trump is all over these files, too.
He is. And it is a very complicated relationship. In the 90s, they were described as best friends. Trump is quoted in New York Magazine in 2002 calling Epstein a terrific guy who likes women on the younger side.
But the relationship soured, didn't it?
It did. Around the mid-2000s, they fought over a property in Palm Beach. Trump actually outbid Epstein and won. But there was also a reported incident where Epstein tried to recruit a girl who worked at Mar-a-Lago, and Trump banned him.
He was persona non grata at the club.
Which is so interesting, because here we are in 2026, and President Trump is the one who signed the Transparency Act that released all these files.
He did, back in November 2025. But you have to remember, he was hesitant at first. It took immense pressure from his own base, the MAGG movement, to get him to sign it.
They wanted the files out to expose the establishment, even if it meant some blowback for Trump himself.
And the files don't exactly clear him.
No, they don't. The recent flight logs show Trump flew on Epstein's jet many more times than was previously known. The DOJ even flagged that early flight records were incomplete. So while he signed the law, the docs show he was deeply embedded in that social circle for a very long time.
So we have Clinton, we have Trump, we have the royals, we have tech moguls like Sergey Brin mentioned in the files. But the thing that keeps me up at night isn't the parties, it's the protection. Why wasn't he stopped sooner? He was caught dead to rights in 2008.
This is the most disturbing part of our deep dive. The system of protection. That sweetheart deal in Florida.
The original sin of the case.
It defies all legal logic. In 2008, Epstein faced serious federal sex trafficking charges. He should have gone away for life. Instead, he got this secret plea deal. He served only 13 months in a county jail.
And it wasn't even real jail. He had work release.
6 days a week. He checked out in the morning, went to his office to conduct business, and then checked back in to sleep. It was a complete mockery of justice.
But there's a detail that ties everything together. Alexander Acosta, who was the U.S. attorney at the time, later explained why he agreed to that deal.
What was his justification?
Acosta claimed he was told by intelligence officials to back off. He was told that Epstein belonged to intelligence or was important to a federal case.
Belonged to intelligence. That one phrase. It changes everything.
It does. You combine that statement with what we just learned about Peter Mandelson leaking government secrets to Epstein. You combine it with the bounty hunter background of tracking hidden money.
It stops looking like a sex trafficking ring run by a pervert.
And starts looking like a blackmail operation run by a spy.
That's the pattern. I mean, think about it. You compromise powerful men, presidents, princes, CEOs. You get them on tape in compromising positions at your island or your ranch, and then you own them. You have leverage over the most powerful people in the world.
It explains the immunity, it explains the money, and it explains why, even in 2026, with him dead for years, The system is still struggling to handle this truth. It's like the system is fighting itself.
It suggests that the sex trafficking, as horrific as it was, might have been the mechanism for something else, a control system.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive, what does this all mean for us, for you listening, trying to make sense of the headlines tomorrow?
I think the synthesis here is that we are looking at a web that entangled the highest levels of global power. Finance, tech, government, royalty. The release of these files, the Clintons testifying, the DOJ leaks, it's all chaos. But we have to ask ourselves, are we actually getting justice?
Right. With victims' names leaked and politicians using this for leverage, is the truth actually coming out, or is this just another layer of the game?
And here's the provocative thought I want to leave you with. If the 2008 plea deal was influenced by intelligence officials, and if figures like Mandelson were feeding state secrets to Epstein, was Epstein actually an asset? And if he was an asset, who was he working for? And most importantly, if the files are this damaging to the people in charge, how much haven't we seen?
That's a chilling thought. We're seeing 3 million pages, but are we seeing the whole picture? Or just what they decided to let us see?
You should always look for the cracks in the story. That is where the real truth usually hides.
Well, as the hearings kick off later this month with the Clintons, we will be watching very closely. Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive. Keep looking at the bigger picture, and we'll